Welcome to the first lecture in our bot obfuscation part. This time we're going to look at HTTP headers and what kind of headers websites use to indicate different parts. So what I did here is went to the grepolis page we use in the API automation part, and then I moved over to the network tab in our Chrome DevTools and to the first entry that is indexed, and now we can see the headers for the request. So let's start from the bottom here. The user agent HTTP header tells the service, in this case grepolis, what kind of browser is used, what kind of operating system the user has, and what version of the different tooling is installed. In this case I did some modification to show Firefox instead of Chrome. This upgrade insecure request header tells the service that the client, so we are trying to upgrade to a more secure and authorized session. All of those sec headers above, sec fetch, destination mode, site and user, are kind of ways to add metadata to requests in order to make sure that the browser knows how to behave, the service knows how to behave when there are malicious requests, for example. So it's kind of avoidance for malicious activity. The referral header indicates where we came from. So when we came from the basic page, this is what is reflected here. The cookie header itself is a really important one because this one holds all the state of our application, of our service in this case. So it holds the information that we're now logged into our grepolis, and it holds the session ID, for example. If we go over to application and then cookies, we can see all the cookies that are currently saved for that specific session, as well as the PHP session ID. So for example, if you want to take over a session of someone else, you might be able to do that if you know his session ID. This is called a session takeover. The cookie header is really the most crucial part of this whole HTTP header section because, as mentioned before, it holds the state. So let's go back to our network tab. The next header we can see here is this cache control max age equals 0, and it just means that the cache is fresh for 0 seconds. The accept headers tell the service what kind of language we speak, so what kind of language the client speaks. In this case it's a deflated gzip file. We accept some language, and here we can also see we accept responses in type HTML. That is going to be the web page. This upper section with the colons are a lot of metadata that tell us that it's a GET request, what the path is, and we can also see that path inside of our URL, and the authority is the basic service we are requesting. The status code is 200, so we did a GET request and got our page back. We can also see the remote address we used to access this specific service, and then we can see some response headers that are, again, different from the request headers. So all of those headers make up the request we are doing from our browser to the service of grepolis. What we can do here to mimic the behavior is to click the request and then copy it as a curl request, for example. Then moving over to a terminal and executing our script, we can see that we get back HTML content just like we are giving it to the service by using this accept header. If we scroll down a little bit here, we can see that our game is actually saved in the state of the page. This is really interesting because we can now go in and check what headers are really important. So let's remove all the headers that have nothing to do with the actual session, so we remove everything but the cookie itself, and then re-execute our file, and then we can see that our game is still in the state. So all the other headers are just for the service in order to identify yourself. So let's do one more test and remove everything from the cookie but the session ID. And if we try to re-execute that, we don't get anything back because this is too little information. So we have to play around to find the right kind of parameters, the right kind of headers that we're using. If we're not familiar with curl, we can also use node fetch or any other one of the given elements that can be done here. So let's go ahead and look at more tools that can be used to obfuscate bot activity.